She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. We hope that already, so far in this day that you've just started, that you are completely blessed. And I know that after you hear what you're going to hear today, you and I both are going to be even more so encouraged. I believe that your faith is going to be built. I believe you're going to get stronger. And I believe you're going to make some new decisions in your life. And are you ready to redefine the status quo definition of success? I sure hope so, because we live in a culture that has defined success for us. And I'm telling you, it's a sham. It's a scam. It's a lie. It's a bunch of posers trying to go after something they don't even want, which I think is ridiculous. But here on the Dani Johnson Show every day, we challenge you to redefine success for you. Instead of following somebody else's design, instead of following somebody else's definition, you will define it for yourself. Because for some of us, success is having an awesome, joyful, harmonious, and passionate marriage. And then for others of us, it's making tons of money. Well, if the world has decided for us that having tons of money is our definition of success, and that's the only way to be successful, well, then the person that desires deeply to have an awesome relationship with their spouse that is harmonious and peaceful and passionate, well, if they're chasing after money, 100 hours a week, they're denying their true, deepest desire. And so that's why it's so important for you to define what success is for you. And we're going to challenge it every single day, challenge what everyone else is telling you. And there is a calling that's calling out of you. There's something you were designed for. There's something that you have. It's called a purpose in your life. And here on the Dani Johnson Show, we bring you content every day that helps you to figure that out for yourself and how to live that to the absolute fullest. I want you to imagine for just a minute that there you are, homeless with 3 children. You are flat broke. You're a single mother. You do not see, and by the way, you're a single mother, flat broke, homeless in the winter. There's very few things that could be worse than that. And yet there are all kinds of people all over the world that is actually the reality in which they're facing. But just like Domari, she had a turnaround, and so can you. I think that today, as you hear her share her experience and the steps that she took to be able to change her life, to no longer just be completely consumed with debt, no longer be filled with broken relationships, both with her children and the father of her children, no longer being the broken, pitiful person that she was, but now living life at a completely different definition. I know that as you hear her story, it's going to be challenging for you. And as you look at your own life and look at mindsets maybe that you have, that today you might change your mind about a few things. Joining me right now, all the way from Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, in fact, is Domari Dickinson. Domari, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. Oh, I'm so sorry. And it's Dickinson Lewis. So,
yes.
Hi, gorgeous. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. You know what? You have gone through some yucky stuff in your life.
Yeah.
Yet you're not living in that yuck anymore. I know that you have an awesome success story, and we're so, so proud of you. But there you were not too long ago, in a broken marriage, a single mom, 3 kids. It's the dead of winter. And you don't know how you're going to feed your children. You don't know which way is up from down. How did it feel being homeless with your 3 children and being faced with that decision to have left your husband and to be left with nothing?
It's crazy because when I think back over that time, it was only 3 years ago. And it seems like forever ago.
Yeah.
I'd never really struggled in my life before that point. Things kind of came easily to me. So for me to have to reach out to other people to figure out how I was going to feed my kids, to figure out how I was going to pay my rent was very, very difficult. And it was a humbling experience. Something that I never imagined for my life. When you're little, you don't think, I'm going to be a single mom with 3 kids and be struggling living paycheck to paycheck. But at that time, it was my reality.
Yeah.
And I didn't see a way out of it. It took a lot for me to take the kids and move from New York. Like you mentioned, the relationship with their father was in ruins at that point. I was telling everyone that I knew that I hated him, that I was never going to talk to him again, and I honestly, truly believed that because I didn't see a way to make that situation better.
Why? Domari, tell me why. Why did you hate him? Why did you not see a way of making it better? I'm going to ask you, this is the reason why I want you to answer that question. I encounter this often. So many of us, we make up our minds inside of our heads that something is hopeless. And, then we begin to sell the hopelessness to other people. We begin to convince those that are around us that the situation is hopeless and, oh, that won't work. And, no, he's never going to change and he's never going to do this. And I'm not going to do this either. You know what I mean? It's like we make up in our heads of a reality and we stand firm on that reality, even though the reality is terrible. And even though the reality is hopeless, yet we just gird ourselves up and we fight for the bad story that we're wanting to sell to everybody. So why did you hate your husband?
I didn't understand him, and because it was hard. And like I said, I wasn't used to having to struggle to make things work, and I didn't have examples of other people around me who had to struggle in their marriage. So I just knew that this is not right. It's not meant to be because we're struggling, and we shouldn't have to be going through this.
But Domari, how were you struggling? When you say we're struggling, what does that actually mean? What did a struggle in a day-to-day basis look like? Just give me one day in the struggling life of Domari and her husband.
So not being able to agree on simple decisions in terms of, getting out of the house was a struggle. For me to say, this is the time we need to leave, what are we doing with the kids today? What are we going to eat for dinner? We weren't seeing eye to eye, and just the communication was not there.
So when you say that you didn't have examples, of other marriages that were struggling, does that mean that you grew up in like this perfect family where mom and dad were always so loving and they never had an argument and they were just cuddling all the time and they never had any financial struggles and they never had any physical struggles? They just never had an disagreement. They were always agreeable. Is that what you mean by?
I did. I never saw my parents fight.
But does that mean they never fought? Does that mean they never fought?
I didn't know that, though.
Yeah.
Right? So looking back, I'm like, they probably thought they were doing what's best for us to kind of shield us from that. But we never saw that. Never saw them argue. Never saw them fight. Yep. There was always enough money to go around in our eyes.
Yep.
So I thought, well, if I'm not doing that, then this must be wrong.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. What would you recommend then? What would you say? Do you say the flip side of it is like, fight in front of your kids? Worry about money in front of your kids. Do you think that's the answer?
No, but I think so. And that's something that we're much more purposeful about now, is just helping our kids understand what we're going through. So our kids know that we don't always agree, but we're not arguing in front of them.
Right.
And it was hard because my 5-year-old, the first time we had a disagreement, he was like, "Oh, Mommy, you don't love Daddy?" And I'm like, "I absolutely do. We're just having a conversation and we're trying to get to common ground, right? Like we're just not agreeing on this right now."
Right.
It doesn't mean we don't love each other. It doesn't mean that when Daddy walks out the door, he's never going to come back, because he will. We're just going to work through this.
Right. Okay. So let me ask you this. So then you said, okay, mom and dad had like the Leave It to Beaver family. My mom and dad did not have that, that's for sure. And I really believe that it's important that kids are not being raised in this fantasy. And I think it is important that kids are not raised with parents who are screaming and fighting in front of each other. I don't think that's wise. I don't think it's wise that the parents say, "Oh, we can't afford it. We don't have the money," all of that stuff. I don't think that's wise. But I think it's important to sit down with your children as you see them fighting, right? Then you talk about, hey, mom and dad, they have differences. They have communication issues too. And we try to do that in honor with each other. And I think it's important that moms and dads tell their older children, hey, our marriage is not perfect. A perfect marriage is until death do us part. We work through the issues. We have to learn new skills. We have to learn where to compromise, where to die to ourselves. We have to learn where not to be totally selfish and to come together as one flesh versus trying to expect someone else to be like us. So I think it's really important. And I think, Domari, you're a prime example. Like, mom and dad never fought in front of you. I think that's admirable. But I think it's important for that kind of a mom and dad to say, you know what? Even though we don't fight and argue in front of you, that's something that we've chosen not to bring you into our problems. But what we want you to know is that every relationship has challenges, and you have to persist, and you have to learn how to work together. You have to learn new skills of communication in order for it to succeed. That's what I think is important. All right, so let's go back here, because I think that's a really important thing for people to know. It seems like it's one or the other. You know what I mean? The parents that are like, you know, show the right example, but then don't set their kids up for success, and understanding that, you know, when you take a man and a woman and you put them together and you expect them to become one flesh, that's more than sexual. It's a war. It's a war. It's a war. It's a war in a lot of cases. And I think we do get set up for failure in some ways, because we don't see what that looks like and how to work that stuff out. Okay, so then you said you hated him. You hated the children's father, which I think is so funny. The children's father. Were you not married?
We weren't.
You were not married?
We didn't.
Gotcha.
No, we didn't get married until after my first dynasty.
Wow. So you were living together with this guy for how many years?
4 years.
4 years, not married. So that meant that, you know, neither one of you were totally committed in the relationship.
Correct.
And when we're not committed in a relationship, what happens?
It's easier to walk away.
It's easier to walk away. Exactly. It's easier to walk away. And when we're not committed, we don't go all in. When we're not committed to the relationship, we look for the first reason to get out. I'm out. See ya.
Yeah.
Bye. You're not perfect. Goodbye. Booyah. I'm guilty of this. I know this all too well. And there's some of us that are married that still act like that, which is pretty sad. But yeah, so okay, let's go there. Do you recommend living with your boyfriend for 4 years and having children, having 3 kids, and saying that's the best way to go for marriage?
No, and it's so funny because, again, there's so many things that just having plugged into the community that I've realized since then, and that's one of the things. It wasn't a big deal to me before, but seeing how my life has changed since then and how God has blessed me now that I've been obedient has been amazing. And, you know, and I feel bad because I missed out on so much because I wasn't following directions before. I wasn't being obedient. I was doing what I wanted. And we suffered for that.
Yeah.
You know
what's so interesting about that is that so many people, and Domari, when we come back from the break, we'll get deeper into your story. But let me just wrap this section up with this. I also lived with a couple of people before I got married, and I strongly am against that because I've lived the pain of it. And I know some people are like, oh no, it's no big deal. But really, is it no big deal? Because even in your case, you lived with him and you didn't think there was anything wrong with it, even though the relationship was a disaster. There was something seriously wrong with it. This is Dani Johnson. We're going to redefine success for you again in just one moment.
If you've ever wanted to make millions, change the world, be the voice for the voiceless, and have a blast doing it, then you need to spend some time with this lady right here. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success.
And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
You know, it's so easy for us to kind of take in mindsets or philosophies or even theologies from those that are around us. I know I did that. You know, I believed in my earlier days that living with my boyfriend was a wise thing to do. I thought that that was kind of smart. And, you know, let's go ahead and test drive this machine called marriage. Don't be thinking something else. But let's just see if we're compatible together. Let's see if, it really works. And I didn't do that once, but I did that. Well, if you include the first husband, we only knew each other for 7 days. It was a terrible thing. I met and married a guy in 7 days. But yeah, we lived together for 6 days before we got married, or 4 days actually before we got married. But same with my current husband, Hans, my last husband, Hans. I'm not doing the remarrying ever again. I better keep my mouth shut. Anyway, so we lived together for a little over 2 years before that we actually got married. And oh my gosh, we really set ourselves up for failure. But again, when we live in a culture that says, oh yeah, it's no big deal. What's the big deal? You don't know what the big deal is until you look back. And when you look back, you find yourself like Domari, who was a single mother and homeless because she left her children's father, and they weren't married. They had lived together for 4 years. They had 3 children together, and at the time she thought that was no big deal. But yet there was all kinds of suffering that was going on in the relationship as a direct result of things being out of order. So Domari is joining us now again. Domari, so you're homeless. You leave your children's father. You're homeless in New York City in the winter, which is just awful, absolutely bitter, cold, wet. You're wondering how you're going to feed your kids. What brought you to the place of change?
That's a really good question. It took a while for me to change. You would think that being in that situation and having to move down to Maryland and move my entire family in with my friends would be that catalyst. But it actually took another year, and it took coming to your trainings, actually, being plugged into my first Steps event to realize that there was actually hope. So I thought that I wanted to change, but I didn't believe that my situation could really be better.
Okay, so hold on right there, because I see that so much with people. You wanted change, but you believed that things would not change. So how did you live at that point? You have 3 children living with friends. You and your 3 kids are living with friends. There's 4 extra people in somebody else's house. And yet that wasn't enough to bring forth change in your life. What brought that hope? So you said you tapped into First Steps to Success. So excited. We have one coming up in Orlando, Florida here shortly. What brought that hope? Like, what inspired you to go from, wait a second, I can change. My life can change. I don't have to live this way.
Being around a community of other people who are actually living their dreams. And not because they had always been successful their entire lives, but they had also struggled. Yeah. They had overcome so much and had come through so much, but didn't stay stuck there. Hearing story after story about people who, were homeless, were dead broke, were relying on their church to feed their family, to going to making over 6 figures in a year. Seeing people who just had been through a struggle and still were living their dreams, let me realize, well, if they can do it, why can't I?
That's right.
And until I actually believed, I still wanted to be married, I wanted to be happy, I wanted to be successful, but I wasn't doing the things that it took because I honestly didn't think that any amount of work was going to make it right.
Yep. So let's fast forward to right now, because a couple of years ago, this inspired you, that training, First Steps to Success, and I'm so proud of you that you came and that you listened. You obviously couldn't afford to come. You obviously had childcare issues. You obviously had all kinds of barriers in front of you that would keep you from tapping into that community at First Steps to Success and on Facebook and getting a hold of, books like First Steps to Wealth, which again, if you're listening to the show for the very first time, we would love to give you a copy of this book. It's the story of how I went from homeless to millions, now multi-millionaire, who gives 100% of the profits and 100% of my income to the poor. I take no income from any of my professional work at all. First Steps to Wealth, step by step. How do you dig yourself out of the worst pit that you could ever find yourself in? Or if you find yourself in a rut right now and life feels like it's moving along like sludge, or you're even stuck in cement somehow, this book is going to be able to help to ignite you into your future. It's free. Get your copy right now. If you dial 866-760-8255. Again, that's 866-760-8255. Ask for Nellie. Tell her you're listening to the show right now. She'll send you out a copy immediately. You cover the shipping. We'll pay for the $15 book, or you can get the ebook copy right now. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue after this.
The thing that's been holding you back is between your ears. It's time for a whole new mindset. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
But I'm so blessed that I found what is in Grooming the Next Generation for Success. This is a book that is being taught in universities around the world. It's been noted as the best book on parenting that has ever been written. Crazy, if you ask me. But the point is that this thing gets results. Get your copy today, 888-757-8880. Again, that's 888-757-8880. Or go to DaniJohnson.com. That's DANI Johnson.com. Get your copy today.
And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
Living paycheck to paycheck, feeling like nothing's ever going to change. That's exactly where Domari Dickinson Lewis found herself. Unmarried, 3 children, homeless in New York. Today, totally different thing has happened in her life. She came to a place of understanding that yes, indeed, that of all these other people that she met and saw on our Facebook page at DaniJohnson.com, the Facebook Dani Johnson Live on Facebook and Twitter, as she met these people, as she saw these testimonials of people in the same exact situation that she was in, she made a decision to turn her life around and follow some simple instructions that a 3rd grader can follow and does follow. We have many 3rd graders around the world following the instructions in First Steps to Wealth and doing it and making money. 3rd graders. Well, we have other people standing in line in unemployment crying the blues or in welfare saying, well, nothing's working for me. There are solutions. So, Domari, let's fast forward. Where are you at today? What has happened in your life in the last 2 years?
Oh, well, the relationship with my children's father, he's actually my husband now. We've been married for almost 3 years. We moved down to Maryland together, living together now. So that relationship has been restored completely. I've earned raises on my job, made over 6 figures last year, had my highest grossing month in my part-time business. Last year, I actually got 3 consulting positions that I didn't even apply for. Was grateful for them. So that was just another way that I've been blessed by being obedient and following directions. No longer living paycheck to paycheck. And although it took me a few months to start applying the actual strategies for more on that, I got serious and paid off over $10,000 worth of debt in 6 months to be completely debt-free. Wow. And that was on a single income for a family of 5.
Wow.
So I think for me, the biggest thing is, like, I can dream again. Like, I've always loved to travel, and now I've been, for the past 2 years, been traveling all around the country, paying for those trips in cash, so not ruining my credit. My 13-year-old daughter has started coming to the First Steps event. She pays for her own hotel. She pays for her own airfare because she's also started her own businesses and has been successful with those. And then just being able to plug into an amazing community here in Maryland. We have an awesome, awesome support system that we've been working with for the past 2 years. And as a community, we pay off over $3.6 million in debt. So it's not just affecting my family, but so many others. And that's just been huge to watch them walk in financial freedom, too.
Yes. Domari, look at that. You were homeless 3.5 years ago. Now, in 3.5 years, you're making 6 figures in a year. You have paid off all of your debt and you're completely debt-free. You have helped other people pay off $3.6 million worth of debt using the War on Debt system. Your children are different. You married the guy that you kicked out, that was the father of your kids. Now you're a wife and a mother and setting an amazing example for your children. I am so excited about what you've done in your life. I had no idea that you were homeless before you came to First Steps to Success. You're another one of those homeless stories that no longer is living flat broke and desolate and more than anything, thinking that nothing's ever going to change. I'm so proud of you that you are following directions. I'm so proud of you that you stepped up and that you are setting the example, not only for me, for everyone that's listening, for your children and the community that you're working with. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so very, very blown away and proud of you. Well, there you go. I don't care how bad your circumstances are. Things can change. Joining me right now is Jill Kearns, another one of the faithful listeners to the Dani Johnson Show, a part of this community. You can find her on Facebook as well. Jill has been to First Steps to Success. She has followed directions, and now you're about to hear her story of what's changed in her life. And let it be inspiring to you. Pay attention, because it doesn't matter how bad your circumstances are. You can make a change, and the change can start today. Jill Kearns, welcome from Chicago, Illinois. Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, Dani.
Hi. So tell us, where was your life before you came to First Steps to Success and DaniJohnson.com?
Well, my life was kind of good but rocky, I would say. I have a I've been blessed with a really great husband, and who is working hours and hours and hours, and trying to keep up with our lifestyle. And we just were. I didn't see him enough, and so his stress level added to my stress level. And I actually found you because I was looking for a way to earn some extra money so I could remodel our kitchen and be able to do things like get pedicures. So things were stressful because we just felt like we needed more money. And I had actually plugged in to you through the Smarter Network, or the free 30-day home boot camp, home-based business boot camp, and listened to all 30 hours of amazing training, and learned that the next step was to go to one of the live events. And so I followed directions, and I did that, and I got there and I listened, and what I learned was that I had been selfish, and that my selfishness was dishonoring to my husband.
How did that feel when that revelation hit you? That your selfishness, obviously you cared about being an honorable wife, but when you say your selfishness was dishonoring him, can you just tell me, what exactly did that look like? What did your selfishness look like?
Pushing him to work more, feeling like, why can't you provide more of the things that I want? And it looked, when you showed it to me in that way, it was like, oh, wow, I'm forcing my husband away from me.
And then complaining that he's not around very much. Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. So many wives do this. It's nuts.
Why aren't you home enough?
Exactly. But he's like, hello, you want pedicures. Hello, you want this $1 million house. Hello, you want a new car every 2 years, and you need another expensive purse. What do you mean? Why am I gone all the time? Yeah.
I have to be. Yeah. So I just realized that I was pushing him away, and not just from me, but from our kids, who love when he's around. He's an awesome dad. So, I was putting him in this horrible position of having to pay for things that weren't making me happy anyway. So it wasn't like the pedicure had any long-lasting, feelings.
Well, it's pedicure or him. Do you know what I mean? Do I really need this pedicure? Which, by the way, this multi-millionaire does her own toes. I forget it. Why am I going to pay somebody to touch my feet? Ew. I do my own nails. I don't need to pay someone to do my nails. It's so interesting because the wealthy are frugal, and it's that middle class that's spending all that they make on pleasures that really are not pleasurable. And in this case, I love what you're saying. It's like you had been forcing your husband. It's like you were the slave driver. You had a leash around his neck and you had a whip in your hand. Go, I want more pedicures. Go, I want more expensive food. I want my kids to have brand names on their butts. It's their butt. I want expensive toilet paper. Come on. It's like, wow. And so many marriages end up in divorce because of that pressure on the husband and the wife who's never satisfied. And he just feels like he's wasting his time and wasting his life. So it's like, wow, okay, pedicures, new car, or an amazing time with my husband, more time with my husband, my kids having more time with my husband. We got our priorities jacked up in this country, I believe. In fact, in most countries, most places around the world, especially the Western part of the world, it's just messed up. Messed up. Okay, so what did you do? You came out to First Steps to Success. You began to study specifically about finances and learning the keys into the financial kingdom that we teach at First Step Success. That's in our personal finance system. What happened from there?
I made the decision to take immediate action. So I left that session and I got on the phone with my husband and I called him and I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for dishonoring you, for, spending our money so frivolously. And when we get home, I want to sit down with you and go through our budget, which he'd been asking me to do for at least 2 years. And he obviously was very open to all of that. And so we did. We sat down with our budget, and I showed him. I bought The War on Debt, and I brought it home. The War on Debt series. I brought it home, and I made him watch the video with me. And we, like I said, we looked at our budget, and we found over $1,500 in excess spending right off the bat that we were able to correct for. And within about 4 months, we paid off a little over $21,000.
Wow.
I brought him back with me to the next First Steps to Success, and I think it was either that one or the one right after that we mutually decided that our house was too big, and that we didn't need to be, that it was excess too for us. And it was my dream home. And there were things that needed to be fixed about it to make it my dream home. Wow. So there was going to be additional costs. And
isn't that
lost
crazy?
All desire for
Jill,
it.
Isn't that crazy that we could be in our dream home and still not be satisfied and still have things that we want to upgrade, that we want to change? This this range that has 6, burners on it is not enough. I want more. There's this thing in us that says, I want more, I want more, I want more. And that is the current definition of success that our society has sold us, and I think it's just a big fat lie. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
If you think there's no one who cares about you, then it's time for you to meet Dani Johnson.
I just heard this amazing story. One of our clients had written us telling us that they had used job domination and unlimited success and has absolutely exploded their career. He said, Dani, I don't know where I'd be today without job domination and unlimited success. Listen, do you want more recognition from your coworkers? Do you want to be recommended to people all over the world? Do you want to be somebody that is highly sought after? Listen, if you're in a dead-end place where this gentleman found himself, but then learned new strategies and changed everything in his work life, and obviously this has resulted in higher bonuses and pay raises, you're next. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Job Domination right now. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Job Domination. That's what you need. It's time for you to dominate the job market and break through the rut that you're in.
It's time for a checkup from the neck up. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
You look at people that live in big houses, drive nice cars, and they're pretty, right? They're just gorgeous, kind of like Jill Kearns. She's gorgeous. You've seen the pictures here on the show. Dark, gorgeous, curly hair, flawless skin, beautiful eyes, right? You look at these people as you're driving by them, and of course they have their gorgeous children with the nice brands on the butts. But you look at that and you think, oh, they must be so happy. Everything must be so great. But deep down inside, it's a mess. Dad's working too much. The debt is huge. You feel overwhelmed by so many things going on in life. And yet, all that you buy, whether it's the new kitchen, new clothes, you're remodeling, you're changing out the perfectly good carpet, but it's not quite the exact color beige that you want it to be. And, the paint's okay, but it's not quite the exact hue that I'm after. So I want to change these things. This is where Jill and her husband were. Jill confessed just a few minutes ago that she was the one that was driving her husband away with all of her selfishness. Jill, I have to tell you, the humility that you have is powerful. For you to publicly, right here on national television and radio, that you, or worldwide on the web, that you could actually say that is profound. It really is. Most people will never admit their wrongs. They will never admit their flaws. And yet I heard the brokenness in your voice when you were talking about that you, after First Steps to Success, you went straight to the phone and said, honey, I'm sorry. Please forgive me for my selfishness. So now you and your husband came together. You stopped all of this bleeding, if you will, of greed and gluttony that was coming out of you. You guys have paid off $21,000 worth of debt in just a few months. And you were just about to tell the story that you sold the house. The house was too much. It was too big and unnecessary. It was excess. So where are you at today?
The house actually, we will be closing on our house March 31st. And we are in the process of looking for a much less expensive place. It was on the market for 3 weeks and it sold. So we, that's one of the blessings. We got the price that we had asked for or wanted to get for it. And, it's just been, we're still in the whirlwind of settling it down, but it's so great to see the relief in my husband's eyes of like each time that one of those burdens is removed, it's like you can tell his load gets lighter, and he's now looking at the finish line of these heavy, heavy burdens that he's had to carry. Yeah. And seeing that there's he's going to be relieved of so much of it, and that we'll be able to do things that he wants to do, like travel, as a family and as a couple, and he'll have more time at home with the kids and not have to stress about work when he is home. It's just, I'm excited. I'm excited for the both of us. And, I still have a home-based business, and I'm excited about it because I have the ability to actually do more good in the world and be able to invest into other people and to keep investing into my own growth and then invest into my kids. And so, and actually be able to make changes in the world around me as opposed to just changing my kitchen and, changing the color of the paint on my toes, and doing things that really matter.
Yeah.
So,
how does that feel to be where you are today? You know what I mean? I want you to tell me, like, when you look back a year ago, who you were, and you didn't even know that you were just consumed with greed. If someone would have asked you that question, you're like, no. Those people over there in Bel Air are. You know what I mean? Those people in Beverly Hills, now those suckers are greedy. But we would never look at ourselves and think that we are consumed with greed. We never would. Mm-hmm. Right? And so how does it feel? What's that feeling that you have of knowing what you were and knowing what you are today?
Freedom. Freedom is the biggest thing, of just the freedom to dream bigger and to not feel like there's things that I have to say I can't do because of this heavy burden that I'm carrying around with me, or we can't do whatever. There's so much flexibility in life when
you live simple. You know what? I heard this when you said dream bigger. It's not only about dreaming bigger, it's about dreaming clearer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because what I'm hearing from you is that you were the classic person following what society told you success looked like.
Right.
That you were following somebody else's version of success. And so when I heard you say dream bigger, like, what does that mean? A bigger house? We already had the bigger house.
No, I didn't need that.
Do you know what I mean? So what does that mean? If it's dreaming bigger, articulate what that actually looks like? Because it's not a bigger house because you're selling the big house.
Right. No, dreaming bigger is, potentially living in a foreign country for a while. And rather than our kids going to foreign language class here in the United States for 30 or 45 minutes, that they would get totally saturated with another language and another culture, and that we together as a family would get to learn something totally new and different. And then we can pick up from there and do it again in a totally different place. Being able to spend a lot of quality time with extended family, being able to help other people who need it, families who could have a house for $300, and I could have bought 5 of those in a month.
Yep.
For somebody in another country, or $5,200 in Nicaragua.
Yep.
And they could have a house for the rest of their lives.
Yep. Yep.
And there's people who desperately need that help, and I don't.
So to me, that's dreaming more clear, and you found what dreams were for you versus chasing somebody else's dream. You redefined success for you. You found what was calling from the depths of your own heart. And what it sounds like to me is a bigger dream is so much bigger than bigger houses, more cars, more stuff, and more pedicures. But a bigger dream is more quality family time and experiences that money can't buy. The experiences of traveling to foreign lands, the experiences of spending time learning that foreign language in that land, the experience of building houses for the poor, the experiences of not needing for anything, but being financially independent, not because we make millions of dollars, but how much we choose not to spend. How much we choose to cause our bank account to grow because of what we choose not to spend on things that are frivolous. I love this, Jill, because you were the model perfect example of society dictating what success looks like, and you went after all of it, and you found it was a lie. You found it was a sham. You found that you'd been robbed. You found that you'd been burdened, and you found that you had burdened your husband and your children all at the same time. And so now, true success is freedom. Freedom in every area of your life. It's freedom emotionally. You said, I feel free. You're not emotionally laid down anymore. You're not mentally laid down. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have struggles, and it doesn't mean that you currently don't have struggles. It means that you now have tools in your hand because you tapped into something so powerful that works, and you followed directions, you humbled yourself, and you followed through. And because of that, you've been blessed beyond measure. And I'm excited. I can't wait to see pictures of you and your 3 children and your beautiful husband in a foreign land, helping other people and learn a foreign language and living there for an extended period of time. What an awesome thing to go after. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Don't go away. The next segment might just change your life. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
What multimillionaire do you know that volunteers their time to help ordinary people like you and me? There's only one. And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
Redefining success, challenging the status quo. Other people are telling you that your life is supposed to look a certain way. I say, you figure it out. What's calling out of you? Man, just as you heard today, both Domari from Maryland and Jill from Chicago, these 2 ladies who are a part of an amazing community of people that you can tap into. 2 ladies who I know inspired you, paid off debt, restored relationships, humbled themselves, setting a better example for their families. It's incredible to see that we can make a choice today to no longer stay the same, and that's exactly what these 2 ladies did. So I want to thank both of them for joining us today. Also, if you are in any way in that place where you find yourself where Jill Kearns or Domari Dickinson Lewis was, that you were in that, Domari was homeless, now she's making 6 figures, okay? That's a crazy story. If you are at all inspired by their story and you want to connect with them, and you want to connect with more people just like them, if you go to DaniJohnson.com, you'll find our Facebook icon right there. You can come and meet us on our page. There's hundreds of thousands of amazing people that are on that page. Of course, there's a jerk once in a while, but most of the people on that page are just incredibly encouraging people who have profound stories just like the ones that you just heard. Also, to get you started on the right track, First Steps to Wealth. This is the book that these ladies, there's some of the skill sets that these ladies were talking about today. You need help improving relationships at work and at home, improving the finances, annihilating debt, right here. This is exactly where you can learn. This is your first step in. I'd love to send you a free copy of it. First Steps to Wealth, if you dial 866-760-8255. Again, that's 866-760-8255. Ask for Nellie or Nate. That's Nellie or Nate. Both of them are waiting for you to call them right now. They'll go ahead and give you the code to be able to get an ebook of First Steps to Wealth. Or if you want the physical copy, you can go ahead and pay the shipping, and we'll pay for the $15 book. I think that's a fair deal, right? You cover the shipping and handling, we will cover the book. Get it right away. I want you to tear the book apart. I want you to highlight it, dog ear it, write notes in the margin, go crazy with it, with the physical copy of it, and begin to apply what these 2 ladies applied, because your life is waiting for you to change. change. You're the only one that can change it. And on that note, you heard Jill talk about this, and I know Domari is also passionate about this. We have heard about some families in a place where they are not only poverty stricken. When I think of poverty, I don't think of what I experienced when I was with Maria as well as Aurelis, who have no water. They have no food. They don't have bathrooms. They don't have kitchens. They don't even have a house. They have a dwelling that's been put together by a bunch of scraps of metal or wood or trees or whatever. I mean, or even blankets that have kind of created a dwelling. Your child's tree house is first-class Ritz-Carlton compared to what Aurelis is living in with her 4 children as a single mother. We can help build Aurelis a house for only $5,200, as well as the 1,000 other people who are in severe need. That's only $5.2 million to take care of 1,000 families. Please do what you can to help. Go to kingsransom.org. Again, that's kingsransom.org. This is Dani Johnson. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow with another exciting topic that's going to help change your life. God bless. Hi, welcome to the Dani Johnson YouTube channel. We're super excited to have you here. And every single week, we're going to make sure that you get awesome videos for your business, career, making more money, saving money, annihilating your debt, as well as helping you to handle those really tough problems that you have with people at home as well as at work, and taking those really good relationships you already have and causing them to flourish and grow. All you have to do is click that subscribe button right down here. Click that and you'll be subscribed to an amazing community of people as well as some great videos that will help to improve your life. Thanks so much for being here. Subscribe now would be good. Just click it. I know you can see it. It's somewhere down here. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.